I'm Sam Cosgrove. I'm here today to discuss the Queer Mormon Experience. In short, the goal of my project is to give a platform to LGBTQ members of the church who are both active and inactive, and allow them to share their stories and their testimonies of their faith. In order to better understand their experiences, we must first discuss the history of LGBTQ policies and practices within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The first time homosexuality was publicly mentioned by a general authority was done so in 1897 by President George Buchanan, saying it was filthy and abominable. By 1948, the tone had kind of changed. There were two gay BYU students, and they were in love. They were unsure if they could remain in good standing with the church and with BYU, and so they met with church president George Albert Smith, where he told them to, quote, live their lives as best as they could, end quote, in their companionship. However, in 1958, BYU began on-campus electroshock and vomit aversion conversion therapy for male students who were believed to be gay. In the 1960s and 70s, the church began to teach that homosexuality was a disease that could be cured. During this time, the church also taught that masturbation and pornography would lead to homosexuality and would further lead to bestiality. In 1983, the electroshock and vomit aversion conversion therapy at BYU ended. In 1995, the church published The Family, a Proclamation of the World, which teaches the only marriage ordained of God is that between one man and one woman, and that gender was an eternal characteristic that matches the assigned sex at birth. The church also began to encourage members to be more kind to LGBTQ people and to sympathize with them. In 2006, Elder Dallin H. Oaks and Lance B. Wickman were interviewed on the church's stance on LGBTQ issues. They stated the church does not stand against conversion therapy because it could help some people. However, it does not endorse aversion conversion therapy, nor does the church endorse same-sex marriages. In 2009, all CES schools added a clause to their honor code which forbid homosexual behavior. This clause is now known as the homosexuality clause. In the 2010s, the church launched a website entitled Mormons and Gays, which shared the stories of LGBTQ members of the church who were celibate or in mixed orientation marriages. During this time, the church enacted a policy not allowing children of LGBTQ people to be baptized until they were 18. However, this policy was reversed on April 4th, 2019. During this announcement, the church also announced that same-gender marriage was no longer apostasy, but rather a serious transgression. Later in the announcement, President Oaks also stated that, quote, immoral conduct in heterosexual and homosexual relationships will be treated the same way, end quote. In February of 2020, the homosexuality clause was removed from all CES schools' honor codes. Initially, it was believed that LGBTQ students could openly date at BYU without fear of punishment as long as the relationship did not lead towards marriage or violate the law of chastity that straight students were held to. However, 2 weeks later, a letter from the director of CES schools stated the principle still stands. Homosexual behavior is still against the honor code. Currently, the law of chastity states that, quote, sexual relations are only between a man and a woman who are legally and lawfully wedded as husband and wife, end quote. This teaching forbids same-sex couples, even if they are married, from engaging in any kind of sexual relationship. Now, with all this in mind, it's difficult to imagine why LGBTQ members of the church would remain in the church. To better understand why LGBTQ people decide to stay or leave the church, let's listen to some of their stories and testimonies.
My name is Dallin Coyle. My pronouns are he, him. I am 24 years old, and I am an active gay member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
My name is Francesca Lopez. My pronouns are she, her. My age is 21, and I am queer.
My name is Matt. My pronouns are he, him. I identify as queer. I'm 24.
I experienced a lot of anxiety surrounding my sexuality before and during my mission because I didn't want anybody to know that I was gay, because where I'm from, that was looked down upon, and it is looked down upon a lot in the church by members, and I didn't feel like I would be in a safe place if people knew that I was attracted to men. But thankfully, I was able to come out to my mission president, and he was able to show me that even if my attraction to the same gender was a thing, I wouldn't have to worry, because there are people in the church who truly do care about me and about other LGBTQ members who are willing to walk that road with us and are willing to help us try to figure out who we want to be.
Before I moved to Utah, my experience with the church was good. I felt loved and supported and like I had a family. And when I moved to Utah, I realized that the church meant something wholly different here, and I was not a part of the picture of Zion that most members here have idealized simply because of the color of my skin, because at that point I hadn't even realized I was queer, which only further ostracized me.
I definitely don't have as great of a relationship with the church as I used to. It's hard to want to be part of an organization that doesn't seem to want anything to do with you and doesn't really seem to be making any real effort to want to keep you there. I from a young age, I think I realized around 11 that I probably wasn't straight. I didn't really have the vocabulary for it then. This is way before gay marriage was legalized and it was really mainstream. It was really only something that the adults talked about or that vague references were made to in church lessons. But I knew enough to start paying attention to the things that people were saying and pretty quickly grabbed onto the fact that everyone in the church and that the church taught at that point especially that being gay was a choice and that you probably had done something to be that way, whether it was looking at pornography or being abused or having absent parents, none of which applied to me, that made you that way. And so I grew up believing that God hated me. And so everything that I did, throwing myself into my callings and fasting and praying to be changed, they weren't done to make God happy. They were done to curb his anger. No child should be that afraid of God. So, I served a mission hoping that, that big sacrifice would be enough to finally get God to cure me. And when it didn't, of course it didn't, I finished my mission, I came home and went to BYUI, went to therapy, and came out to my therapist. And after a while, I was diagnosed with PTSD because of the way that I had been treated in the church by family members and by friends. Nobody should have mental illness because of their religion. Nobody should feel that horribly about themselves or about life because of a belief system that professes a loving God.
This church is true, and the blessings that I've received in my life truly do come from the experiences and the things I've done, the decisions I've made in my life that have led me to where I am today. And I believe in the prophets. I do have a testimony, and I do sustain the current presidency of the church and the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, and know that things that they say are true, and that they are doing their best to try to figure out how to help each and every one of us as we all go through this mortal experience together. And I believe in that continuing revelation that comes through them to us and through the Book of Mormon and the Bible to us, that we may be able to find out how to live in accordance with the plan that we're given in this life where things don't always go to plan, and they always change, and they're always different.
I have a personal testimony that the core doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as I have found it to be true, is true to me personally, and that it has great value in my life as I continue to try to be a better person and to be more like the person that I believe Christ was and continues to be. I believe that prophets are chosen of God to attempt to be mouthpieces for them, and that God loves me and tries to parent me as they see fit. I have a testimony that the Book of Mormon and the Holy Bible are able to help me find guidance and strength in times of need. I have a personal testimony that God believes in families and trials and second chances, and I believe in the atonement of Jesus Christ. And I have a testimony that Christ died for me so that I can try again and be a better person.
I don't really know what my testimony of the church is anymore. I love the idea of a Father in heaven that loves me, but I haven't really had that experience. That's not really what I had the luxury of believing growing up. I have spent time, I still do spend time trying to fix my relationship with God. I still want that, but I've had to completely separate the idea of heavenly parents from the church because I don't believe for a second that the church really wants me there. And I can only hope that God does. I still believe that, well, I don't know if I do. I don't know if I do. But I want to. I want to believe that I have heavenly parents who love me. And, I haven't quite figured out how the best way is to do that or what the best way is to do that.
Something that I would love members of the church to understand and to know about how the church can be a better place for active LGBTQ plus people is that it's important to learn about what it's like to be a gay or queer member of the church. Lots of people have an idea, but they don't really know exactly what it's like. And so when somebody takes the time out of their day, completely unprompted by an active member or active gay member or anything like that, to just go and search and learn about the experiences that the active gay LGBTQ plus members have is out of this world amazing. And it helps me feel more accepted when they've taken that time to learn about these experiences and what it's like. And you don't have to necessarily say anything about it, but to know that you're there and that you're someone that can be there to talk to is absolutely amazing. I love this church and I love everything about it. It can be hard being a gay member of the church. Things aren't always the best mentally, and sometimes you're not treated very well by other members. But to have people there who are willing to be kind and to be nice and helpful is one of the best things that can help any active or struggling member of the church who is also a part of the LGBTQ plus community.
I want members of the church to know that I'm just like you. I'm just like you. I'm just like your dad. I'm just like your son or your cousin or your neighbor. And in all likelihood, they're a lot like me too. You probably have a lot of queer people in your family or social circles that you don't realize. Maybe they don't realize. And what you say and what you do, it all matters. And we see it. And as merciful and full of forgiveness as we can try to be, as I can try to be, it takes a toll, and it is nobody's place to tell me how I should experience my spirituality or my connection to the LDS church when that is completely my experience and my decision to make.
I think that church members could help gay kids not have to go through everything that me and so many other people have gone through simply by teaching their kids that they'll love them no matter what. I think that's something that kids are supposed to take for granted, but when you're gay in the church, you don't. You don't take for granted for a second that your parents love you or that God loves you. You need to be teaching that to your kids, that if you're gay, God loves you. And if you're gay, your parents love you. And I know too many people who have been kicked out of their homes for being gay. You can't do that. The answer to this question was supposed to be, what church members could do to make church a safer place. But before church can be a safer place, your home has to be safe. And you need to be actively making sure that the people who live in your home know that gay people are to be loved and treated well, and they shouldn't be taught that gay people are going to hell, because then those kids will grow up knowing that they're loved and they'll stick up for the people who need it.